All I remember is bad stuff, like being called names, hideous names.
Can you remember what they called you?
Yeah, burnt toast, Greg's coffee, Marmite features, those sort of things. Yeah, the worst one was burnt toast. I hated that. Hated it.
That must have been like a punch in the gut as a young kid.
Yeah, well, and there was really nothing I could do about it. My father was a policeman, so it's not like I could hit back or anything, because I think in the back of my mind I was always thinking, oh, I'd be the one to get into trouble. I don't know, but I never did. It was my brother that actually had my back.
And looked out for you.
All the time.
So when you were just a baby, 11 months old around about,
Yep.
you pulled on a jug cord, was
Yeah.
it?
Yes.
And what happened?
It went... I think I must have fallen forward because I've got burns, which I didn't know about until about 5 years ago, that I've actually got burns in the back of my head and up the back of my neck. But so I fell forward, it's all down my back and like my arms and sort of across here, and there's wee splotches.
So across your chest?
No, just on my back, but there are a few bits here, not a lot. It's on my back.
And so how old were you when the major surgery started?
Well, that I can remember.
Yes.
I was about 11 or 12. I was in intermediate school. I was just finishing Form 1. And because I was born and bred in Whangarei, that's where I was burnt. And I remember my mum had moved to Te Awamutu, and I was all by myself in Whangarei with her best friend was coming in and looking after me. But one of the most hideous things that I will never ever forget was being put in the bath after I'd had the skin graft done, and they take the donor site off.
So they removed the skin from a good part of your body?
Yeah. And then, but after about 10 days, they put me in the bath and told me to take it off with the water. And it was so painful. I must have been in the bath for a couple of hours. And each time they would rip it. Rip. I was absolutely beside myself. Absolutely just... And Mum wasn't there. So it was like, yeah, it was just horrible.
How many surgeries and grafts do you think you have had over the years?
Probably about 25.
Surgeries?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
would all of those have been for skin grafts too?
Grafts, Z-plasties, what they call Z-plasties, like all of these. I call them my Zorro.
So these are crisscross marks on your arms.
Yeah.
And that is where...
The release thing, them. They release them because your arms contract. Yeah. And I actually just found out that I can have some more because I've got a few other issues on my back and one of these arms.
So
one of these arms, how many have I got too?
What are those issues on your back?
They're tight. Very tight.
And so does the skin tighten over time?
Yep.
And so the marks that I can see on your arm, where there are very definitely V shapes or Z shapes,
Yeah.
that is when they're basically scoring your skin to loosen the tension?
Yeah, like crackle. Yeah, they are. They're just releasing it.
What effect do you think that had on you as a young kid and a teenager, being treated like that by your peers?
I actually was quite withdrawn. And I only had a few select friends, really, who I'm actually still friends with today, because we ended up moving back to Whangarei. And, I just kind of stayed. Yeah, I didn't do, like, any sports, or I didn't like swimming, hated it.
Why was that?
Because I had to wear a bathing suit, and people could see my scars, and I hated it. And then the bullying would start all over again. And teenage girls are the worst. They are so bad. They're so bitchy. Even back then.
Now, do you think people treat you differently?
It's me. It's how I take it on board. Before, I'm not saying that I have good days. Sometimes I have really bad days. Only just a couple of weeks ago, I drove to Chartwell to Hamilton, and there was a whole group of people around, where the car was, where I'd happened to park the car. I don't know where they came from, but they just appeared. I wouldn't get out of the car. I drove home because I just froze. It was like I had a panic attack because I just started wearing it. It's only in the last 7 years that I've actually worn sleeveless dresses. And it was kind of like...
So did you have your arms exposed on that day?
Yeah.
And so what was your thinking about getting out of the car?
That I'd get bullied, or that they'll stare at me. And I don't like that. And I know that it's just curiosity, but at that moment, I couldn't cope with it. So my way of coping was to drive home. Yeah, that's how I cope with it. But other times, sometimes I'll just say to people, you can ask me what happened, or...
So it's only in the last few years that you've started to wear bare arms to not cover your burns.
Yeah.
What's changed that helped you do that?
Actually, it was a personal incident that happened, and when it did happen at the time, it took me right back to school and being bullied.
Did someone say something to you?
Yeah. And it was actually the breakup of my marriage, actually. But about 6 months later, I suddenly thought, gee, if I can survive that, I'm going to wear sleeveless dresses.
Do you swim these days?
I do. Yes. I've got 3 bathing suits, and I go cruising, and I get out in my togs. I still have panic attacks. So one of my goals this year is to go swimming at the pools in Hamilton.
So to a place that is very public, where there will be lots of people.
Yeah.
Why do you want to push yourself to do that?
Because it makes you grow, and it actually it kind of like actually educates people that just because I have scars doesn't mean to say that I should hide away. Because sometimes I feel that people should say that. Yeah.
Have you spent quite a few years hiding away?
All my life. Yeah. I was 49 when I came out, when I stripped off. Yeah. And I've got a friend in Tauranga who took a whole lot of photos of me, and I just felt so liberated. It was just like so empowering when I finally actually accepted the fact that, well, are you going to go around wearing a cardigan for the rest of your life? You know, going to wear your nanny cardi sort of thing? Because I do always carry a cardigan in the car, actually, just in case I do feel comfortable if I go out. Yeah.
So when you had all of those surgeries, many of which were in your teenage years, when did it stop hurting after those operations, physically?
After each surgery, probably it would be at least a couple of months. Yeah. And like all my surgeries that I had, even as an adult, my mum came and looked after me, which was really hard because she always still feels guilty, and even now, but even though I would never blame her. It was an accident, you know. I was just one of these kids that was walking at 11 months. Yeah.
And she was in another room when it happened?
She was actually running a bath for my brother. Mm.
Do you recall when you were a young girl, when you looked in the mirror and realised that you looked different to others?
I don't think it was when I was a child. It was when I was an adult. Yeah. It was, now what was it? I can't remember, but I know I had to look at my back. Yeah. And that was just, yeah, I couldn't cope with that for a little while because it was so ugly. Sorry. But you get over it. Well, you have to, because you're the only one. You know, no one else can help you, so. But I realised then, because it's kind of hard when you're always the different one. And like when I was younger, like when I was nursing, I used to get told then, by not the girls so much. Well, actually, no, not the girls that were in my class, but other girls, and they used to say things like, oh, you'd never get a boyfriend and you'd never do this and you never did that. So I became quite promiscuous, for the want of a better word, because that was the only way that I could, that I thought that I could get a boyfriend. But in actual fact, it wasn't like that at all, because, I did eventually meet one guy and he just said, I don't know why you did, but it's just because that was me. Yeah, that was me.
When you say you looked at your back and you thought that you looked ugly, do you think differently now?
It's not so bad. Yeah. No, not so bad, because again I realise it's just it can't go away. It's not going anywhere, and unless I'm going to cover up, for the rest of my life, and not. I actually realised too that when I go swimming, because when I did go swimming on the odd occasion, I would wear a t-shirt, but in actual fact that actually drew more attention to me, because people would say, why have you got a t-shirt on? Or some pools, because I was actually covering up to protect as well. I had a special suit made, actually. We all did, actually. And people would say, why are you wearing that? Why are you wearing it? And it's like, well, I have to wear it to protect my scars, But whereas now, if I just wear my togs, if people are looking at me, well, good on them,
How important do you think, as well as the treatment of your physical injuries, was helping with mental health? And did you get that attention as a burns victim and as you got older as well?
It wasn't until I'd had that last lot of surgery, and I was at Middlemore Hospital, and the burn support group came in, and she said to me, did I have any issues? And I said, oh, no, And then she said something about swimming. And, that was 2.5 hours later, I walked out of her office and I was like so drained, and realised that, wow, I do have issues. So I started going to their regular meetings and things. And because I had such huge support from my family and my friends, like nobody treated me any differently. It was me. It was all me. But I think probably because I was overweight, and I've always been overweight, and with my scars, it kind of compounded. And I also wear glasses. So it was kind of like when I was a teenager and, in my young 20s, it was like, yeah, it was all happening for me. I wasn't I wasn't a babe, I used to cover up. Yeah, and I wore coloured contact lenses. Oh, mind you, I still do. I like them. But I wore coloured contact lenses so that people would look here rather than here.
So you wanted them to look straight in your eyes and not let their eyes go down to your arms.
I mean, eventually they would. I knew that, but yeah. But it was just a bit of a deterrent.
How much have your scars faded over time? Or changed?
I don't think they have. No. I don't think they have. I mean, they're smooth because you have to constantly moisturise them because they get quite dry. Otherwise they're all cracky.
How would you describe your journey and where you're at now?
I wouldn't say it's been easy, but it's good now, and it'll only get better. I've had several opportunities. I've just come back from the World Burns Congress, which was all paid for by Burns Support. It was just the most amazing thing that I've ever been to. It was just like about 1,000 other burn support people, and it's burn survivors, And it's amazing to be in a room or in a place where if someone's not burnt, they're the minority, if you know what I mean. And just looking at everybody, because it was at the Hilton, and everywhere you looked, there was just survivor after survivor, and it was just like, yeah, like I'm really comfortable here. I'm so glad that I went. Really, really glad. Changed my life. That like between that and the retreats, because they really do make you feel that you're okay, and you're doing okay. Yeah, or that I'm doing okay.
And are you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's still a lot to go, but I'll get there.
Are you comfortable in your skin these days?
I am. Actually, funny you should say that. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing this. No way. No way would I be doing it. And I wouldn't even be here.